So this morning about non-dual therapy, and the biggest difference between therapy, ordinary therapy, and non-dual therapy, it is that in ordinary therapy we deal with who you think you are, In non-dual therapy we work with who you truly are. And I worked with therapy for nearly 60 years. Started way back in Odense. We were a group that worked with each other. We were most of us were studying university. And so one evening in the week we worked with each other. And one evening at a week we invited people from outside to come in for free. And it took off and off and off, and I learned so many ways of working with therapy. Then I went to Pune in '79, met Osho, and all the greatest therapists from the world came there, from SLN and in America, and from Kaleidoscope in London. It was really the peak of therapy of those days in '70s that came there, and I took part in so much of it. And remember, I did a primal group for half a year with all kind of techniques also. And so of course I came back to Denmark and I worked with all this for so many years. And then Osho died in January '90, and at that time I was a Pune therapist. And in the late summer, autumn '91, I happened to go out of the ashram, and there was a woman I knew very briefly who said to me, you should go to Lucknow and meet Papaji. And it was nearly 2 hours after Osho's death. And somewhere I was tired of processes and processes. Because in Pune it was just processes. Genius therapist, but it was not about awakening, enlightenment. It was all about this process and that process, and could go on forever. And when she said that, I said, let's have a cup of coffee. So we had a cup of coffee, and the day after, or maybe the same day, I was going to give a Tantra group with Mumina. And when I came into this group and I saw 25 naked people sitting there, and I knew I had to be struggling with them now for 2 weeks. I said to Mumina, please, it's finished. I had to go on. And I know I put you in a very difficult position, but I cannot. So then I was on the train to Lucknow, met Papaji. And it was very, very both shocking and really freeing to meet Papaji, because I was so used to putting Osho up there above everybody, and it was fantastic, and came in his Rolls Royce, and suddenly Papaji, he was an ordinary old man that was hearing very badly, and they more or less had to drag him in. And when we were newcomers, we were not many. I think we were maybe 50, 60 people there those days. Those of us that was newcomers, we were sitting in the front row. So when he had said, welcome and Om and all this, I said, Papaji, whenever I come in here, in this deep space, I don't want to go out again. And he said, come up here. And then he laughed at me for about half an hour, sitting beside him. And he said, you got what you came for. And I didn't feel that. I didn't feel I was awakened. But I was definitely very, very affected. So I stayed on for some time, and then I went to Goa and meditated on the beach for 3 weeks, and somehow worked with this that has happened to me being with Papaji. And very short, a few years after, I ended up in Rishikesh and met Shantimai's master Maharaji, Hansraj Maharaji. And one day, after I had been doing Gayatri in the morning with him, I was sitting looking at the mountains in Rishikesh, and it came. And it never really left me. I was laughing and crying for 3 days. And then I walked in the forest in Rishikesh to really get it grounded. Because, of course, there was a lot of things coming up that tried to sabotage it all the time. So many of my Dharma doors and my work is also happening from my own work to get stabilized in it. So, and after this awakening, it's 27 years ago now, slowly my work starts changing. Like I would do therapy if there was big problems, but I would find ways to take people home to who they are. And there is a place in everyone that is free. That is it. We are all enlightened, whether we know it or not. But when we get conditioned, when we are born, it gets sabotaged, slowly, with language, with whatever feelings, whatever we are learning. And the main thing we learn when we start getting conditioned is to suppress things and express other things. And all these suppressed things go down in your subconscious mind, and later on it will keep on sabotage you. And that's why we go to therapy, of course, to try to get in touch with it and try to become free of it and see through it. Because the strategy of conditioning is that there are things that is okay and things that are not okay. And we learn from very small to be small politicians. Oh, this they like, this they don't like. So already we are small politicians at an early age. And awakening happens when there is a deep trust. And it's not really no things you can do, because all doing creates separation and duality. And that is in the way to know who you are. A normal experience is dual. It implies you and what you are experiencing. It implies subject and object. That is a normal, ordinary experience that we all learn. That I am a boy or I'm a girl, and we learn to identify with the body. We are not bodies. We have bodies, but we are not bodies. We appear as bodies, but we are not bodies. But in our low culture in the West, we know nothing else. We believe that we are bodies. So we are brought up with this idea that we are bodies. Oh, you're a woman, and oh, you're a man, and no, we are not. We are beyond all this. We are an pure consciousness that takes form of all this stuff. But that happened to me after all many years ago, working with self-inquiry and Atma-vichar and other kind of ways, meditation. It's very difficult to come to this place who you are without meditating. Because you may touch it for a split second, but it's gone immediately. Because your mind is so full of stuff that will sabotage it. I saw it with poverty, because poverty was so strong that you actually just had to go up and be close to him, then the transmission was so strong. His space was so strong that you picked it. But you could hardly come down and sit down before it's gone. So those days I saw that it was the people who have kind of worked with themselves in therapy that was more easy for them to keep it. Those who did not have not worked on therapy, they lost it immediately, because the inner sabotage was so big. So it happened 27 years ago, and changed my work. I started working with taking people home not make them feeling better, but really take them home to who they are. And before you come home to who you truly are, you are not free of doubt. Therapy, ordinary therapy, cannot take you free of doubt, because doubt is building on duality. Me and what this me is experiencing. So you can replace what this me is experiencing, as we do in therapy. We try to make it a nice, aware experience, but we don't question the experiences if they're real or not. So it's duality still. You go into a therapy session because you have some problems, and usually we will try to talk and try to get deeper into it by talking. And then we may ask the client, who did you get it from? Do you think you get it from your mother, your father, or how is this relationship? And then we go into the father and mother thing, and whatever technique we use, we are still in the realm of duality. Also Gestalt, which I like very much. And what usually happens in therapy is, ordinary therapy, is that it's a great freedom to be met by somebody who listens to you, that don't stop you. That is in itself a great help. That you can suddenly start talking about some shocks or dramas that you're carrying around, and you cannot really talk with anything about it. And just meeting somebody who listens to you really actively is an incredible help. But it stays in the mind, the talking. It stays in the analytical mind, and the therapist start questioning about the parents and all this. And you don't come out of the duality, you don't come out of the me and you, because there is no me, and there is no you, and there is no experience, essentially. This is all the same. I sometimes, with the fear of people go too much into Christianity, I call it, it's godliness, all of it. It's the divine, but not Christian, but really a marvelous, fantastic. That's who you are. Because Christianity is also dualistic, so yeah, those who were not talking about it in a dualistic way, they were hanged or burned or... Yeah.
These days.
So it's deep in us, the fear about this. Yeah. So I try to, in my work now, to try to take them on beyond the dualistic mind. And I used self-inquiry and I used associated inquiry. And the one I want to talk about today, associated inquiry, was actually a method that came to me by itself in the early days in Rishikesh. I was constantly having doubt coming up. And the moment doubt popped up in my otherwise silent mind, then there will start a struggle. And this struggle will imply a me and a you. A me and a doubt, duality. So how to go beyond that? In normal consciousness, there is first an experience, then very, very, very quickly there's an experience of a me, an ego. And the third part is that this ego and this experience is put together. That is an experience. That is duality. First there is just an experience, and then there comes me in, and then these two are put together. That is ignorance. That is the dual. So I learned that if I don't go into this doubt feeling, into the feeling of it, and start analyzing it, start repressing it, or start questioning it and conceptualizing and just feel it. Doubt, interesting. With a big yes, there will be some layers I had to go through, because if you really feel doubt is impermanent. All experiences are impermanent. And then sooner or later I was home again. Ah, my God. And there may come a new thing up, and I will start with this subtle struggle with the ego, me and this, trying to get rid of it or analyzing it or conceptualizing about it. And that is the traditional unconscious ignorance. And therapy don't really take us beyond that. That not the therapy I have worked with, and I have worked with nearly all that has been in up through the 70s and the 80s, because it all came to Pune. All these great techniques, Gestalt, Encounter, NLP, and whatever they're called, all of them. So, an experience here, you here. And if this experience is nice, then you go close to it and try to grab it. And if it's not nice, you pull away from it, and it gives hurt and gives pain. This is the dynamic of ignorance, grasping and rejecting, until we really start understanding there is no object to grasp or reject. And it may take a long time, or you really get it very quickly. So you could, for instance, this morning, just as a little try out, close your eyes and feel one of your basic experiences, feelings that you dislike. When it comes up and you start fighting it, jealousy, anger, God knows what, doubt. Take one of them and then yes to it. Total yes. Don't try to push it away or get rid of it. Say yes and feel it. As much as you can say yes to it and feel it in your body. If it is doubt, then feel doubt in the body. If it is jealousy, feel it. These feelings are impermanent. But normally we don't see that, because we start immediately label it and conceptualize. And it also happens with a normal therapist, that they start giving names to it and concepts. And the moment you do that, let's say giving it name and concept for doubt, you are not with the clear feeling of doubt anymore. You are with the past, with all your ideas about it, the concepts, the labels. And that is one of the problems in traditional therapy. Immediately we come into analysis and concepts and labels. Please, don't do that. Just feel doubt. Sense it, smell it, taste it. No language, no labels. After a while, it will be seen through. You will just see through it. There will come another feeling up. It could be hurt, deep hurts coming up. Then you say yes to that. And you relax into the feeling of deep hurts. No labels, no concepts, no language, no analysis. Don't bring the mind into it. And the more you can just feel the feelings, it immediately changes into a new one. And It could, for instance, be doubt. The next one. Good. Or aloneness, or anger, or sorrow. It will come by itself. But the next layer is. But slowly, slowly, you will start coming close to who you are, without really knowing it. How do you know it? When there starts coming very, very, very strong negative feelings, it could be feelings about death, or doubt, or just a minute. Death is one of them. Duality, aloneness. These are two ones that are kind of close to source. There, some of them, those of them, they're the last one that comes. Doubt, or aloneness. Aloneness, or death, even death. Then die. Just feel you die. All that you can. No analyze, no intellectual understanding. Just feel you dying. And after a while, it's all getting light now, getting very free. But I haven't solved anything. I haven't understood anything, but I feel good. But my God, often we don't come to that feeling without moving through some very deep ones. Then you stay here and you identify with the silence in your heart. You allow the silence, stillness to come out because it's been there all the time, waiting. Just allow it. Profound stillness and silence. And then you identify with this space. You say, I am this silence. I am this. And then you invite the negative feeling into it. And they disappear. And when they disappear, you go beyond the duality. You wake up. You can also wake up just staying in the heart and feel the silence. But it's not so likely. It's more when you invite some of the negative feelings, aloneness or death, into this space of silence in your heart, then suddenly it evaporates. And you know you're home. You cannot say what it is, but you know. And you have no need to convince anybody about it. Because there is no me here that needs to convince anybody. Everybody who needs to convince others about it are not home. There's still doubt. There's still a me that in the background. When you come fully home, there is no me. There's just something we cannot really talk about, but it's absolutely satisfying, absolutely perfect. And you will know I'm this. And you will know that's what I came for. This is the true me. We can call it bliss and we can call it all these words, but it's still in the realm of the mind when we give it any names. And this place that you realize is beyond the mind. This is the awakening when we work with the impermanence. I call it associated inquiry. And then starts a new journey. When you had this awakening, in Japan it's called a satori, and it has so many names, but no name really covers it. Then starts a new journey. You have had an awakening now, and now you need to cultivate it. It means that it has to be there by itself all the time. When it's there by itself all the time, we call it enlightenment. But that can take a long time, because you have a conditioned mind that knows nothing else but ignorance. And it will keep on coming back and back and back and back. And it will keep on sabotage you. Even if you have a moment, now it's here again. Then, when there is trust in your system, all the bad things also pops up that you have suppressed. All the things that you have bypassed, they come up the moment there's trust. So many people experience that they have a moment of clarity, awakening, just to be confronted with a lot of stuff that pops up. And they say, my God, I thought I got it. And now all this anger and all this pain, and why? I thought I was finished. That's the cultivation. And that's why I call it non-dual therapy, because the therapy is not finished. I have somebody maybe, I remember a woman was in it for 2 weeks, and then she was brought to the union, to a interview at the union, and she got so nervous that she fell out of it. You understand? Oh, I'm going to the union. Oh my God, they want to put me into work, and of course your clarity is gone, because the ego mind comes in again from the back door and take over. She has been in it for 2 weeks, quite a lot. So it takes a tremendous trust to stay in it all the time, or I would rather say that it's there by itself all the time, because it's not something you had to keep on bringing in. It's there, more and more and more, by itself. But in this process, you will have to encounter everything you have bypassed. All stories, feelings, whatever you have bypassed and repressed, it cannot exist there, because when there comes trust in your system, it's a little bit like if you put light into a dark room. Oh, suddenly it's all exposed what is in this dark room. It was not seen before. So that is the journey home, that it doesn't really happen just like that and stays. No, it happens like that. It's a totally shift in your perspective of life. And it's not a shift that you can do. It happens when there is a deep trust, without you trying to make this trust. The trust is there by itself. If you are doing the trust, there is duality. So that doesn't work. But you can go out one evening, and the night is so beautiful, and you look up at the stars, and it happens by itself that there's just a big trust. Not that you do it, but it happens by just looking at this incredible sky. The beauty. Often happens with beauty. And it often happens with a tremendous goodness. And also, of course, when somebody are the truth, it mirrors the truth in you. Then this awakening happens, but then comes the real work. I often tell the story about my first satsang in Copenhagen. At the middle of this satsang, I start thinking about who the hell am I to sit and talk about this. And you can imagine what came in here. That's the ego coming in from the back door. And they nearly had to carry me out of satsang, because I was taken aback by all this pain and worry and distrust. And so I went to Langeland in a holiday house and spent 1 week in a holiday house just walking and sitting, and it came back. It came back. You can, of course, help by meditating, but the meditation has to stop. Gayatri is a fantastic meditation to do to make your mind very sattvic. If you do the Gayatri meditation and these mantras, they have a vibration that they will say in India is very sattvic, very pure, very silent. And when you've done the Gayatri, then sit silently, doing nothing. Then it can come. But not if you do something. But you can be brought down by a mantra like that. But most of the time, people do mantras to get there. And you cannot get there because you are already there. So whatever you try to get to, take you away from it. You are already home. So how can you try to get home? It takes you away. And that's the problem with all spiritual path. That sooner or later it has to stop. All the processes. And that, of course, was the problem in Pune. We did all these processes. And nobody really woke up. And I told you sometimes, I remember one evening we were sitting upstairs and doing Who Am I? Or I think we were doing Who Is In. Who is in? It's a way of doing this. And some people start somehow indicating that they knew something. And I remember the therapist shouting, "Don't think you are enlightened. The only person that is enlightened here is living over there." Such an idiot. And that's what we were told all the time. The only one that is enlightened here is Osho. And that's not a help. It's not a help. We are all enlightened. Some knows it, some don't. That's the only difference. So on this journey cultivating, you often have to go into a lot of feelings and a lot of things you have bypassed. And that's why I do therapy together with trying to help people to become awakened. That is non-dual therapy. I certainly don't keep therapy out of it, but I use it in this way, that when all that they have bypassed, they start seeing and see through it. It's all impermanent, all of it. The truth is that the moment who we truly are is coming into life, it gets identified with a body and a name. And that goes on and on and on, until we start questioning it. Am I a body? Am I a name? And then we may wake up again and we come to a place where we were before we were born, and a place we will be when we die. It's the body that is born and die. It's not us. But we live in such a low culture that there's no pointers at it. We are going to the graveyard with dead people and think we are burying somebody. And the priest knows nothing. He just knows some scriptures. And we are standing there and think we are burying uncle. We are not burying uncle. We are burying a body that is not really there. And the body that is looking at the body there is also not really there. But it's far away from our culture. Our culture is very, very ignorant. And it's getting worse and worse. And you can see it with the wars and the pain we are putting on each other all over the world. All these religions also. It's politics to control people. Ugly. And I have looked deep into all this because I have master in psychology, a bachelor in philosophy, so I've seen through whole the Western story. So non-dual therapy is, now we are fed up talking about the problems, fed up going to therapy that doesn't change anything really deep. You get tired of talking about it. You may talking about your bad relationship to your mother for 2 years every week, and then you get tired of it. But you haven't solved it, because you cannot solve something that doesn't exist. There is not really a mother, and there is not really a you. And you never come to that in ordinary therapy, because the psychologists don't know. There's very few people who really know. It takes a lot of commitment. And it's very difficult to awaken without a spiritual teacher. Because a spiritual master is not teaching you anything, really. A spiritual master is a mirror for the same in you. It's called satsang in India. Darshan. If you go to Ananda Ma, oh, she's not here, and sit with her, a very famous awakened woman in India, you just sit there and sense and feel to be there. And she's a mirror for the same in you. So if you really sit there and feel her, you suddenly realize you're not separate from her. You are the same. And you say, thank you. Thank you. Same with Ramana. They came there and sat with him. He talked very little, but he was in it. And you couldn't help to feel it. He was a mirror for the same in you. And that is the most powerful. It's not a transmission, because the guru or the teacher doesn't do anything. There's just a presence that mirrors the same presence in you. I sat with Osho for 12 years, listening to his silence. And with Papaji and Maharaji, the last two teachers I had, it was very obvious. Maharaji was my last teacher in Rishikesh, Shantimai's guru. And most of the thing he said was such a nonsense. So I rather prefer that he didn't talk. But his space, we just sat there and cried. All of us, and many of us was old sannyasin, and also old people that had been with Papaji. We just sat there and cried, because his space was so profound. But not his words, it was blah, blah, blah. No women, no wine, no alcohol, no. No women, no alcohol, and what was?
No meat.
What?
Meat.
Yeah, no meat. But he was really in it. And he always talked about Satya Baba, his guru. How incredible it was to meet Satya Baba. When he met Satya Baba first time, he fell unconscious. The meeting was so strong for him that he was gone for many hours, totally. And they could hardly get him to go and meet Satya Baba. He was not interested. Why should I go and see this Baba? He's just talking. But finally he went there. He was mirrored so deeply that he fell unconscious. So, any questions to this non-duality, non-dual therapy? You have a good one?
We're not listening to all this nonsense, we just listen to your silence.
Okay, let's end with that. Go into your heart, everyone. As much as you can. Just breathing into the heart. Into the beingness, the silence in the heart. And then ask to meet the same place in me. Just in a subtle way from your heart, reach out and meet my heart meditatively. And see if we come into oneness, if the duality disappears. Go back to your heart again, feel it, the silence. And when you're ready, just from there, from this heart of yours, reach out and meet my heart. Yeah, meditatively. And feel there's no duality. We are one. This is basically Guru Sadhana. It's not about talking or understanding intellectually or believing. It's meeting. Yeah. That's just a meeting, and it's not personal. It's totally beyond all this. It's freedom. And in a way we could do it with each other also, but it's very strong to be it with somebody who have realized the heart. Then it's getting stronger. But you could always also do it with each other. You can do it in your relationships, with your wife, husband, lovers. It's very beautiful. Because we are one here. We are the same. And nothing to do with any scriptures or any talking. And a real awakened soul don't talk to convince you from anything, to make you believe in anything. He or she tries to point at something you already know, that you already are. You can read books that can inspire you, but book learning cannot take you. Papaji was meeting people somewhere, and they were coming into him, and there also came a guy into him, and Papaji said to him, "Go out until you have let go of all your books. Then you can come in again." And the guy went out for a while, and then he came in again and said, "No," Papaji said, "get out of all of it. Drop it." And then he may have come in and being without all the book learning. And he was also sitting on a bank with a very famous sadhu one time, in Ganga, the bank of the Ganga, Papaji. And this Sadhu had so much book learning. It was an American sadhu, holy man. And Papaji said to him, throw all your books out in the Ganga. All of them. Then you may know. All of it. Again, symbolic. That is, it's nothing to do with words and language. And that makes it difficult. It's very simple, but not easy. Because we are living in words, in labels and concepts. And the mind is very scared of coming into a place where there's no language. That makes it difficult. Not, the truth is so simple. It's who you are. So we may use words and talks and therapy, but it's just the beginning. Finally, we had to throw it out all in the Ganga. NLP and Gestalt and God knows what. And in this way you can always meet me, wherever you are. To go into your heart, feel your heart, and then connect with me. You may be in Italy or in Australia or wherever, doesn't matter. Because this place has no distance. This place is creating the illusion of a distance. It's called Maya. There is no distance. It's all Maya. But we live so deeply in Maya that we cannot imagine to questioning it, that it's unreal, that it's a dream. It's so deep in the Western understanding. I was studying philosophy for 5 years, and we were never asked the question, who am I? Never. All these books, all these words. The German philosophy was closest to it. Schopenhauer, Immanuel Kant. I took special interest in Arthur Schopenhauer. He was very, very pessimistic, but he went and realized there was no world. There is no world. Nietzsche also went very deep. Osho used to say if Nietzsche has known about India and come to India, he would have been awakened. Nietzsche. Nietzsche himself said that my biggest master was a prostitute in Italy, where I get syphilis from, and Wagner music. That was my two biggest masters. He has been quite bright. Syphilis from a prostitute in Italy. Not so stupid. Yeah. Okay, thank you for today. Yeah, what about an hour?